good day everyone. I am Harvey Layugan and with Lorea Valanay and Claudine Pornella, we will discuss today about the learning and literacy development under Watson's behaviorist theory. So just bear with us as we discuss and report our topic today. Okay, what is behaviorism for John Watson? Behaviorism for John Watson is the science of observable behavior. Only behavior that could be observed, recorded, and measured was of any real value for the study of humans and animals. Watson's thinking was significantly influenced by the earlier classical conditioning experiments of Russian psychologists, such as Ivan Pavlov. But Watson's behaviorism was rejected the concept of the unconscious and the internal mental state of a person because it was not observable and was subject to the psychology's subjective interpretation. For an example, Freud would ask his patients to tell him their dreams, and he would then interpret the dreams and analyze what these dreams were indicating in the person's life. Watson found this emphasis on introspection and subjective interpretation to be very unscientific and unhelpful in understanding behavior. And Watson also believed that reinforcement is the key to successful transfer through behavioristic learning. Example for stimulus to response, response to repetition, and repetition to behavioristic learning. Okay, so on our next slide, we will know about Watson's life.
So let's identify John B. Watson. Watson is also known for the Little Albert experiment, in which he demonstrated that a child could be conditioned to fear previously neutral stimulus. His research also revealed that this fear could be generalized to other similar objects. In his early age, John B. Watson was born January 9, 1878 and grew up in South Carolina. He entered from university at the age of 16. After graduating 5 years later with a master's degree, he began studying psychology at the University of Chicago, earning his PhD in psychology in 1903. John B. Watson was a pioneering psychologist who played an important role in developing behaviorism. He believes strongly that a child's environment is the factor that shapes behaviors over their genetic makeup or natural temperament. About John B. Watson's career, he began teaching psychology at Johns Hopkins University in 1908. In 1913, he gave a seminal lecture at Columbia University titled Psychology as the Behaviorist Views It, which essentially detailed the behaviorist position. According to Watson, psychology should be the science of observable behavior. Psychology as the behaviorist views it is purely objective experimental branch of natural science. Its theoretical goal is the prediction and control of behavioral introspection forms no essential part of its method, nor its scientific value of its data dependent upon the readiness with which they lend themselves to interpretation in terms of consciousness. Like what I've said earlier, John B. Watson, known for demonstrating the Little Albert experiment and the dozen healthy infants quote. In his famous and controversial experiment, known today as the Little Albert experiment, John Watson and a graduate assistant named Rosalie Rayner conditioned a small child to fear a white rat. They accomplished this by repeatedly pairing the white rat with a loud, frightening clanging noise. They were also able to demonstrate that this fear could be generalized to white, foreign objects other than the white rat. The ethics of the experiment are often criticized today, especially because the child's fear was never deconditioned. In 2009, researchers proposed that Little Albert was a boy named Douglas Murrett. Questioning what happened to the child had intrigued many for decades. Sadly, the researchers found that a child died at the age of 6 of hydrocephalus a medical condition in which fluid builds up inside the skull. Watson remained at Johns Hopkins University until 1920. During the latter part of his life, Watson's already poor relationships with his children grew progressively worse. He spent his last years living a reclusive life on a farm in Connecticut. Shortly before his death, on September 25, 1958, he buried many of his unpublished personal papers and letters. About Watson's contributions to psychology, he set the stage for behaviorism, which soon rose to dominate psychology, while behaviorism began to lose its hold after 1950. Many of the concepts and principles are still widely used today. Conditioning and behavior modification are still widely used in therapy and behavioral training to help clients change problematic behaviors and develop new skills. About the Watson Award in Achievement, in 1915, he served as the president of American Psychological Association or APA. In 1919, he published Psychology from the Standpoint of a Behaviorist. In 1925, he published Behaviorism. In 1928, he also published Psychological Care of Infant and Child. And in 1957, he received the APA's award for the distinguished scientific contributions. Watson set the stage of behaviorism. So we will share about the famous quote of John B. Watson. He said, "Give me a dozen healthy infants, well-formed, and my own specified world to bring them up, and I'll guarantee to take anyone at random and train him to become any type of specialist. I might select doctor, lawyer, artist, merchant, chef, and yes, even beggar, man and theft, regardless of his talents, penchants, tendencies, abilities, vocations, and race of his ancestors. I am going beyond my facts, and I admit it, but so have the advocates of the contrary, and they have been doing it for many thousands of years." It is said by John B. Watson's Behaviorism in 1925.
Now that we already know that behaviorism focuses on the behaviors that can only be observed, most behaviors are learned and they can also be unlearned and relearned. Thus, it is something that an individual has learned and does repeatedly. Here are some of the examples of behaviorism in a classroom context. Teachers who reward good behavior by throwing their class a pizza party after they have been seen acting properly in the hallway 10 times. Or teachers who put a fun stickers on a good grade or use any other points, objects, or activities to encourage good behavior. Third, when teachers take away recess to a student who has been acting poorly, or take away any other well-like freedoms to reinforce good behavior. Lastly, using indirect ways of encouragement for students to mimic a good behavior. Like, I like how Michael is sitting like a proper first grader. While I was reading the examples, I realized that behaviorism is already observed and practiced into us since we were young. Because it is not just in a classroom context where behaviorism takes place. It also takes place in our day-to-day basis. I just want to share this experience because I know that it is an example of behaviorism. When I was on senior high school, my advisor gave the whole class a reward, and that is to have a simple celebration after the last day of our final examination, since she knew that we are all stressed for reviewing and finalizing our missed outputs and all, but she said to us to have a celebration for us to also relax and to savor the moment, because the reason also was we are already graduating and we did a great performance for the whole school year. So she wants us to give a reward, and that is to celebrate.